Seventh Planet Broadcasting. This is Gerald Clark on June 25th, 2016, episode number 4. I'd like to do a little intro to a dialogue that took place between myself and Rex Bear at the Leak Project, discussing some pretty heavy topics related to what's going on in the world today. Some of the topics that we discuss in this brief dialogue include responses to an extinction level event, possibly like the imminent approach of Nibiru, whether to focus on ascension or become an extreme prepper, having a game plan if there even is one, whether that's even worth time spending your money and resources on right now, or whether to be brave and live your life with no fear. As in the days of Atrahasis, we discussed that an oath was sworn not to tell the humans of an impending disaster. And in Enki's anonymous message, he tells us that the same oath was taken again with the approach of Nibiru. So, as in the days of Noah, here we are again. And this time we have a lot more advance notice given the internet and people like you and I, Rex, that are discussing these things. I briefly mentioned some of the symbolism in the tunnel ceremony, alluding to the fact that Lucifer's arrival, Lucifer is a scope put up by the Catholic Church, and in a recent broadcast I did where Marduk renamed Nibiru after himself, we put one and two together and come up with three and realized three different sources are pointing to Marduk being the character Lucifer at the head of the European New World Order. And it doesn't exclude what Enel's up to, but we'll talk about that. Rex asked a question about planet ordering and had a little confusion about the labeling that I used. And if you go back to Zecharia Sitchin's book of 1976, he mentions the 12th planet, calling that Nibiru. Well, if you look at what I did in my numbering, I also honored that, kept Nibiru as the 12th planet, since they essentially considered themselves the last planet into a planetary system that already had 11. And they counted our sun and our moon as part of that, so that's why. So we had 9 planets we were discussing up to Pluto, and then the sun and the moon is our 11th, and the 12th one would be Nibiru. Of course, according to Mike Brown at Caltech, it's the 9th planet, and it's out in some other galaxy somewhere that we'll never see. One other thing that Nibiru referred to was a planet of crossing, meaning it crossed through the inner solar system at a particular place. And most of us in this space believe that's between Mars and Jupiter. I discussed Carlos Ferrada's work in a previous show, and he called the binary twin for our sun Herculobus and had it sitting at about 32 billion miles away. Whereas in Harrington and Neugebauer seem to be pointing toward more like a 50 billion mile away location. That doesn't mean to say that Nibiru isn't passing in between these two binary suns in a long elliptical orbit, which it is. So distinguishing between the binary sun name and Nibiru is important because Nibiru is the planet of crossing, which means it comes between Mars and Jupiter. We discussed how a body flying between two large suns, one binary active sun like ours, and then possibly a red dwarf or the binary twin to our sun, how on a long axis they set up like a teeter-totter, a point that's not exactly right in between them. It'll be the point, a balance point will be closer to the larger sun. And the bodies that fly in between these two suns are affected in their trajectory by this focal point. It's something interesting to consider whether Nibiru actually goes around at aphelion, the farthest point away, whether it actually goes around its binary star or comes someplace in the foci, in the conjunction point of the gravitational pull between our sun and Nibiru's and its binary twin. I discussed one of the best videos that was proof for me that there are objects just outside of our ability to detect them at all times. Sometimes with filters and being in the right place, it looks like many people on the Earth are seeing a second sun, which would be the illuminated planet from our sun reflecting on it, probably not generating its own light like that, but it would appear as a second sun. And I discussed this string of pearls viewing in Alaska that was quite impressive to me. And I think I included that in my Nibiru update report that I did as the first episode of Seventh Planet Broadcasting. The tunnel ritual, to me, that just happened in Switzerland, really kind of has a lot of symbolic meanings, and I know a lot of people jumped on it and started tearing it apart. But probably the biggest takeaway one to me would be that would be a wonderful way to announce Lucifer, Marduk, Nibiru's arrival, connected with their plans to occupy underground facilities accessible via a tunnel. And so I think it was a signal to the elite that it's here and it's time to head to the bunkers. And it may not be immediately. It may be a 3-week, 5-week notice. Who knows? But they're going to do it in trickles so as not to set off alarms so that everybody knows what's going on. Good luck in those tunnels when the 9.0 earthquakes come and bury you alive. And the ones that you don't die, you're going to be enslaved for the next galactic cycle of 25,920 years. Consider your choice in supporting this New World Order system, because that's what it means. Rex asked the question, well, also affiliated with Switzerland, or all the gold and the private bank accounts and all the things that have gone on with the special privileges of those who have that kind of excessive wealth to store it someplace. And the importance of gold in this whole game that's gone on from the inception of our discussion in the Abzu with the Anunnaki mining gold and creating us as their primitive workers, all the way up to the point where it looks like there's a mass conglomeration or accumulation of gold being taken from various countries, and you have to wonder what the destination for this is. And we discuss why gold is important. Yes, it was important for potentially seeding an atmosphere to shield radiation, but they also were clearly using it to produce a monoatomic element, an orbitally rearranged monoatomic element, such that when consumed, it created a superconductor in the human or the avatar nervous system, which would heighten mental processes, activate the pineal gland, probably produce dimethyltryptamine from that gland, which when it's not working never produces that. And probably had some effect on their telomere decay, which was on an alien planet may have been something that came up that they did not anticipate. So that's one of the main reasons why gold is important to them. It helps them maintain immortality on this planet. We talked about some of the ceremonies that also went on in history, like with the Rosicrucian ceremony. I think it's called the Hieros Gatnos, where clearly they were consuming something and partaking in sexual ritual to heighten their energy or access to some dimensional portal. Who knows? But I think this is coincident with what happened in the movie Eyes Wide Shut, and we talked about that with Tom Cruise. Kind of an occult classic for those who understand what that was about. And because of that, I told him, I said, I watched it, didn't understand what it was about, and I wasn't really open to the idea of watching that kind of stuff on TV anyway. Maybe call me old-fashioned, but I don't ascribe to watching or viewing pornography. And I told him that, and I said, and I told my kid this. I said, real men don't do porn. Virtual relationships, to me, are a fraud, and they lead to destruction. So I took a stance on it, and I've always maintained that since I made that decision. That doesn't mean I've always been there, but you got to experience the bad before you know what the good path is, oftentimes. And the other thing I said about that, just not to dwell on it, but good relationships between people are the key to avoiding sexual perversion. And some people may not believe there's any limits to our natural inborn sexual energies, and that could be spread anywhere they want. I don't see it that way, especially from the Twin Flame show that I did on Universal Soul Love, where I discussed the scientific basis for the twin flame phenomenon. Okay, so I'll leave it at that, but I encourage you guys to watch that show. Another thing that comes to my mind, and Rex brought this up, is the fall of Rome. and that societal decay happened from the inside out. And you have to wonder if all the cultures that are mimicking what the United States is doing aren't stepping into the same pathway that the fall of Rome demonstrated. And also it brings up to mind a good book by Jared Diamond. He wrote a book called Collapse, where he talks about how we humans cause our own destruction in civilizations time and time again by overutilizing our resources and not planning for the future. So I think that's happening as well. Let's see. One thing came up about Marduk that was interesting. I stated it looks like he's heading up this new world order, cooperating with Enlil, Satan. So it's Lucifer and Satan teamed up against the Enkyites, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But it was interesting to me that Marduk, when he stayed in Mesopotamia, was considered the avenger of his father. You know, he was fighting Enlil, probably understanding what kind of critter he was, and many other people probably didn't. Of course, it's the classic tale of when the hero takes on the villain, he has to become the villain to operate at the same level to overcome him. So, is that the case with Enlil, or with Marduk? Because Enlil clearly demonized him as the beast, assigning him as 666 as far as I'm concerned. And he did the same smear campaign to most of the other Enkyites as well. So the contrary point, or the corroborating point here, is that Enki claims in his anonymous message on my website, GeraldClark77.com, on the Seventh Planet tab, all the way at the bottom, there's an audio message that I turned from text to speech from supposedly Enki himself, where he describes Marduk as the evil fruit of his seed. And clearly states that Marduk is heading up the European portion of the New World Order, and that Enlil is heading up America. And I saw that a long time ago in their symbolism. So they have a coalition, but are they really, in a coalition that's going to hold up, or is it going to get broken apart? And this is where the idea of Enki and his son Ningshita, and others involved. I think ISIS is involved as well, clearly, because she's getting smeared. So she must have taken the Enkiite team, as far as I can tell. Well, the idea of these Enkiites up against the Enlilites, battling over who's going to be in charge at the incoming new zodiacal house. And I've been saying this for years, but now it's coming to a head, and you can see it. So this is the classic duality of light and dark that they get to play out on the stage of life for us, because you could call it angels and demons, however you want to view it, but it's being shown to us in such a dramatic way that we're supposed to walk away and probably never choose to engage in any warring action again, because it's going to be so bad this time. So keep that in mind. Kind of a theme that came up in the show that I wanted to drive home was our response to death in a culture in our society. And Rex recently faced the death of a family member. It's usually a private issue that you don't want to talk about on radio. But because of the affiliation of that event with the response to an extinction level event like Nibiru that came up in the same conversation, I decided to leave it in there with his permission. And our discussion of it, our responses to facing death. And I mentioned one of the passages from the Bible where Jesus stated, let the dead bury the dead, but come and follow me and I'll lead you to the light, right? So I don't think he's saying don't go to funerals, but he is making a statement about our understanding of the distinction between energy and matter. And I hope people hear me making the connections to the teachings of Jesus and those of Ningshita. They're almost indistinguishable. And in my opinion, and my research points to the fact that Ningshita, Thoth, Hermes, Mercury, Buddha, Confucius, these were all avatar instances of the same being. And Edgar Cayce believed that as well, and put a table up on his ARE website with it on there. And I really love that because it coincides with my research. The guy was profound. Anyway, so I'm going to shut up now and let the dialogue happen, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Gerald Clark here and out.
I've been prepared, and I still am. I'm more callous now. But what you said and what I've heard, I'm definitely ready as much as I can be, I feel. And I appreciate you telling me that, dude, because I need to go through these things again now and kind of refresh and have a better game plan, because fuck, dude, you're
Yeah,
right.
I don't know. I don't know if there is a good game plan other than being brave right up to the last minute and whatever that is. It's such a difficult circumstance we've been put in by people not telling us the truth. It's just dastardly, and the fact that it happened once before in Atra Hastings' day and it's happened again. It's just like, wow, is this part of the being in the know, not being in the know game, or?
Oh yeah, I'm just like,
Oh.
I'm just shaking my head.
I know. Well, in Enki's anonymous message, he said they've sworn an oath not to tell the humans that Nibiru's coming again, just like in the days of Atra Hastings. So, well, that seems to have happened. They're not telling anybody, but they're responding in such a way. I mean, this tunnel ceremony is so indicative to me of what's going on. And I think that last show, I don't know, you probably didn't get a chance to watch it because you were multitasking between doing an interview and watching a show at the same time, if I had to guess.
Which show? The one on Marduk?
the last one I did.
I'm at the 7-minute mark on it. I've still got it on my screen while I'm talking to you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm watching the whole thing, but I wanted to talk to you about I've got it paused at the part where it says Pluto number 1 and Nibiru number 12, and that's why I was kind of like, whoa, that's why I stopped to.
Yeah, though they started out from the outside in, and Nibiru was the last one in. That's why he called it the 12th planet. So
I get you. I'm following you.
Yeah.
Okay. I was trying to figure it out. Yeah,
had it been the first one in, then it would be number 1. But yeah, a lot of people get hung up on that number system. It could be the 10th planet. Mike Brown thinks it's the 9th planet, and it's out, in La La Land.
But, okay, here's my question. I forgot to ask you this, and this was another thing that I think is crazy to think about. If Nibiru does it get closer to the sun than Earth?
No. From what we understand, it crosses between Mars and Jupiter.
Okay. So
you go Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars. Then outside of Mars is where it would actually cross. It doesn't come that close. But because it's so damn huge, it has a massive impact on the planets coming around. It makes them deviate their course a little bit, probably tilt on their orbital axis.
Is there other stuff coming with it, like other moons and or is that all just psyop?
Well, it's like I think it's been described as having a complex of approximately 6 to 7 total planets. Some are small, and Nibiru itself I think has 4 to 6 moons by itself. So and then
is it a planet or a sun?
Well, see, here's the thing. I don't think the sun's binary twin is coming in that close. I think it stays out and does its little dance with the sun at approximately the aphelion location, which is about 50 billion miles. And there's a different name for that. I think you want to call that. I think they call it Herculobus.
Yeah.
That's what Carlos Munoz Parada. He called it Herculobus, and other people have called it other names. Some people call it Marduk or Nibiru, but the one that actually comes into the place of crossing where it goes between Mars and Jupiter, that spot, that one is actually Nibiru because it points to the planet of crossing. So even though you've got a binary twin out there, you could still have parts of the planets that are visiting both of the suns, right? And they may not go end to end around each sun, but they might do some elliptical pattern where their aphelion point is probably some point between where the two binary suns are along that axis. So if our sun is bigger, it would be closer to us on the axis than it would be the second sun from them. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like a tug of war, the bigger object that's going to pull it closer to the middle of the elliptical arch or further out. And so it doesn't actually go around its second sun, but probably comes in some place where its gravity pulls it just far enough, and then it goes back out. So, some of these paths can be very complex, where these rocks fly around.
Okay. And so, if you look at the sun, there's some images that I've seen, especially with the welding glasses on, and you'll see what looks like a sun to the top left or the top right, and it's stationary and stuff. And then the sun's so extreme now. Do you think that's the second sun, possibly, or maybe just Venus or something, or do you know what I'm talking about?
Well, like you normally have to do is when you find something at a certain date and time, the only way to truly know is kind of look at your database and see what's there, and if there's nothing there, you go, well, wait a second.
Okay.
You still have to do that,
right?
Because you could get caught, could get caught by surprise. So
you're right, absolutely, and you said that before, so that makes sense.
Yeah, but it's good that I still like one of the best videos that I still like the best was taken out of Alaska. And it's been a while ago that somebody showed this panoramic view from Alaska where they were showing these planets coming after the sun had already gone down, where they were then being illuminated while the sun was down below the horizon as they were coming into their orbital path, and they lit up like little suns, each one of them, one after the other. I thought that was pretty impressive.
Huh.
Like a string of pearls, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like a streak of pearls. Right on, man.
Yeah, so I don't know. Best I can guess, based on what I'm seeing happening here, is they're doing crazy rituals. They're affiliating it with huge-ass underground tunnels that you know must connect with other deep underground military bases. It's not just point A to point B for cargo.
Of course.
That's all they're telling the public, yeah. So it seems to me like this is a signal that is, and the fact that it's involving the Swiss who are sitting on all the gold, is this
They're
how
coming
they're
back for their gold.
Gold out so the Anunnaki can take it off planet before it gets all mangled up good? What?
They're coming back for reshipment. Now we're slaves in a different form. We think we're doing work for, getting that gold, and then they're just going to come back. And I've wondered that, too. Why is gold so damn important and so valuable? Well, that could be the whole kind of underlying theme for it, too, man. It's
Part of it has to do with certain avatar bodies that need some energetic boost, some little smoothing out of the superconductive highways in the genetic code to allow them to overcome some problem that they had. I think it's probably adaptation to gravity and potentially their telomeres decaying. Like I said in my book, it looks like they were using it to activate their pineal gland, have a different energetic experience, and also apparently it was a substitution for whatever the Rosicrucians were drinking out of the chalice, which looks like the hormones they took out of the female flow, which also had the same effect on the pineal gland. So, they get different hormones from horse urine and all these other different places.
Right.
The Babylonian birth goddess feminine flow, apparently it had hormones in it that when it was derived alchemically, or separated, however they did it, they would add it back to wine and then drink the stuff and have a really massive energetic experience. So I think that's why they combined it with sexual ritual, because you combined the sexual energy with whatever they were drinking, and it apparently took you to a pretty high state of consciousness, at least for a while.
Well, I mean, that stuff's still done today, and there's a lot of books on
I know.
it. Yeah,
I know.
Absolutely.
It showed up in that video, what was it, Tom Cruise, Eyes Wide Shut, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Very strange. I had no idea what was going on there. I thought it was just a bunch of perversion, and I shut it off. I don't watch pornography. That's a virtual relationship. Real men don't do that.
Right on, man.
So, anyway, by the way, I never talk about that much, but that's how I feel about it.
Well, that's cool, man. I think that's really, if you can be a guy and not watch porn, especially with how easy it is, fuck, dude, that's a Jedi right there, man. Stay
really,
Jedi.
Is the society that bad that I'm the exception, not the norm?
I don't know, man. I mean, I can't.
I did have to make a decision years ago that was going to be my stance on it, because I could see it was showing up on YouTube videos unsolicited. It was showing up on Facebook. It's like, okay, they're flooding the digital realm with this stuff,
Yeah.
And I don't know. I found when you were single and more out of a relationship, you were far more vulnerable when you were in a good one.
You got that right, man. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
100%.
I think the Jewish priests knew that. That's why they used to make their youngins get married by the time they were in their early 20s. They had to be married,
Huh.
Because I mean, look how they're using sexual energy to really wipe out the culture. I mean, just take it to a place that I don't know that it should have ever gone to.
Well, it's like, it's the old school Rome type deal. It's just really anything goes to an extent sometimes, and it is what it is. And I think it's kind of that Babylonian style thing, and they push it and promote it and use it for their agenda. I would totally agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of that, well, when you get through this show, you'll realize that I think I finally put a stake in the ground. I've got enough evidence to prove that I believe this Lucifer character that the Catholic Church and the Illuminati and the Lucifer Scope, what they're all telling us is that Marduk equals Nibiru. He did that himself, named it himself. renamed it the Babylonian Epic of Creation. Well, once you get through this show, I think you'll probably agree that he's a likely candidate to be the one running this European New World Order.
Is Enki going to come back,
sure
or what? Do you think
What's that?
You think Enki's going to help us out, or?
Well, see, this is the thing. Originally, when I first learned about Marduk, he was called Marduk the Avenger. He was actually supposedly up in Mesopotamia because he knew what kind of critter Enlil was, and he was going to destroy this being on behalf of his father, and basically get him off the earth. And now you can see why. I mean, so, and actually, originally, when the early writings, Marduk was called He of the Pure Mound by his father. So something went really bad. Well, what if they're playing good cop, bad cop, and Marduk got into alliance with Enlil? I'm kind of thinking out of the box here just for a minute.
Sure, absolutely.
And he's pretending to be in alliance with Enlil so that he takes him to this edge of this new world order, but at the same time, he's gotten so close to his enemy, he knows what all the plans are, and the entire time he was planning on routing him, just like he did before. He's a sneaky dude, and powerful too, so I don't know, between those two, I don't know what, well, it looked like Enlil won with his Olympian war against the Titans, and then Marduk was out of the picture for a long time, right? Well, he's back.
Yeah, but Enki isn't Marduk, though.
No, Marduk is Enki's firstborn son.
Okay, but do you think Enki's going to help? I mean,
Oh, well, actually, if you listen to Enki's anonymous message, it's on my Seventh Planet tab on my website. It's all the way at the bottom. There's an audio file there, about 10 minutes long. He mentions that Marduk has become the rotten seed of my fruit. He's raised an army. He's doing this here and that there. He's colluded with Enlil, who's controlling America, and he's controlling Europe, and these are their plans, and here's what you should look for. It's all in the message. And, it sounded like really crazy. This was a while ago when that message came out, over 2 years ago. Now you look at it, and exactly everything in there has happened. It's all true.
Okay.
So I'm like, wow. So I have corroborated probably 8/10 of that message that is true, and if the rest of it is true, he's telling us that they're chem-spraying the sky so we don't see Naboo's approach, and after it destroys everything, Marduk plans to reemerge as the world's leader, the New World Order leader, and not Enlil. So I think those two are going at it, and I'm not sure which one thinks they're going to win, but I don't think either one of them are going to, because they're both working against the ruler that I believe is in line to do that, and that's Ningshita, who was Thoth, whose mission was to do exactly what's supposed to happen right now.
Nice.
So I think they're poised to bat. So I think Enki and Thoth are up against Enlil and Marduk in the highest level of things, and their kids are involved too.
Yeah. Thoth I've always had nothing but respect for Thoth, man. That's
Well, you know what? You look to the extent to which he was being demonized, so you know that he must be the arch nemesis of whatever this dark force is. Between he and his father, I think they've got it. I think they'll win.
Huh.
But for some reason, they have to let it play out to let all the followers of the last zodiacal house get their culling. Really, you think about it like it's a vote. Okay, at the end of a change of rulership, everybody that belongs to this king that's loyal to them, they go with him, right? And all the rest of them, they're either killed or they're part of the new kingdom, right?
Right.
No difference. So I think the ones that have chosen not to go along with this New World Order stuff that Enlil and Marduk are pulling, they're going to have the protection of the light forces by Enki and Ningshita. And I think you and I are experiencing that, or we wouldn't still be here right now, I don't think.
I agree, man.
Especially after what we're saying.
Yeah. Right on. Well, brother, it's good talking to you, man. I got to go do some yard work at the in-laws, and man, it's crazy losing my father-in-law, but fuck, he was such a stud, man. Oh.
Yeah. Well,
it is what it is.
You're gonna start seeing more of that as you get a little bit older, as the people start dropping off around you, and then seeing how you want to respond to it, because we've been trained as a culture to respond to death with mourning and dressing in black and viewing a dead body as if it's somehow important,
Right.
when we both know the essence of it is already gone. So, it's like Jesus said, let the dead bury the dead, but come follow me and I'll take you to life, right?
Right on, man.
So
Yeah.
I think about that when funerals come up, but you still got to be respectful of her family and the people that are still living, going through the process of understanding death, right?
Yeah, I need to be better at that. I got to tell you, I'm the biggest wimp when it comes to shit like that, man. So I'll take.
Well,
your
you're still you're still younger, and the more experience you get with it, hopefully you'll come to the place where you're absolutely fearless of death.
I hope.
And then you're going to be truly free. I think you're almost there anyway. So.
Right on, man.
But it still impacts you, especially when they're close to you.
Yeah.
The emotions are real, and I was haunted by my brother's funeral for years.
Oh,
it was more.
Imagine. Jeez. Yeah, that's hard.
Should have just kept the memories that I had from him versus going and doing what they do in the hillbilly part of the country.
Yeah. Okay. And the hillbilly, I don't know what that is.
Oh, open casket viewing right before they buried.
Right. Yeah.
Well, with somebody been in a freaking head-on collision, that's not something you want to see.
No, not at all.
Right. So. Anyway, but it was just a body. So.
Stuff, man. So have a good one.
Yeah, you too. Okay, well, be well, and we'll be in touch. Maybe we'll do a show pretty quick here, okay?
Right on, man. That'd be great.
Okay.
Cheers.
Right, bye.
Bye-bye.